So Scott Drew is headed to Louisville, or at least that is what Twitter wants you to think. The craziest part of this whole conversation is that while I say it's facetiously, Scott Drew is not going to Louisville, and I have plenty of things to back it up. If you're a Louisville fan, I have questions for you. If you're a Louisville fan and you clicked on this video, I want to know why you believe this and why talking heads from ESPN Louisville, which I thought those 4 letters meant something, I guess they don't really, are saying that, oh, well, effectively the message board comment that I saw that was, it's Scott Drew's to turn down. He's not going to turn it down. Scott Drew's going to Louisville. Okay, that's a message board comment. I get that. That happens. But then when ESPN Louisville people are posting, according to my man, Drew Diener, Scott Drew is the clear number 1 choice for Josh Harrod and Louisville basketball. There's a clear number 2 that's practically primed and ready to go if Drew doesn't happen, but he doesn't list that guy's name, right? You can't. Oh, no, there's a clear number 2, but you got to guess. And the pie may not be in the sky. Don't rule out Billy Donovan. Wow. Here's what this is. This is as if the Clemson coach, Dabo Swinney, went to Nebraska. You're winning national championships at Clemson. There's not really a reason to leave. You're making good money, and if you asked for a raise, you would be given a raise, Scott Drew would. And Nebraska sucks. But I need you to know that Louisville sucks worse. History's great. I mean, look, history's cool. You can be like, oh, yeah, well, we were almost a blue blood back then. But that doesn't help the fact that they won 4 games last year. What? And that Louisville, over the course of the last, since Rick Pitino was fired, has been awful. 5 straight years without going to the NCAA tournament, but our history is good. Scott Drew just won a national championship, and by the way, since he came to Baylor, the Louisville job has been open 3 times, and he has not accepted it once. He's also turned down Indiana. He was effectively raised in Indiana. Any job, and Indiana, by the way, is a much better job than Louisville, but still isn't Baylor because those 2 programs have not been winning at a high clip recently. Scott is also, by the way, in the best conference in college basketball. Louisville is in a conference that might not exist in a couple of years, in a conference that might not exist tomorrow if we find out there's been a settlement between Florida State and the ACC and that they're going to leave. So why would Scott Drew then jump ship to go to a program that is in an inferior conference, to go to a program that is as bottom of the barrel as you can get from a win standpoint in power college basketball? We're talking Georgetown level, awful at basketball, and go to a place where he's not really familiar. Why? He's not familiar. Why would you start over? Indiana would be oh, shoot, Baylor lost Scott Drew to the Blue Blood Indiana. This is one of the best programs all time, and Scott's from there. But now, the last few times it was different. Louisville didn't want Scott Drew then. We didn't even offer it to him. Or it's, back then, Scott Drew just didn't accept it. But this time is different. And it happens year in and year out. Scott's name is thrown around in this stuff. And I spent 5 years in Waco, spent a lot of time around Coach Drew. And at what point do we put it? How many decades does this guy have to coach at Baylor for you to give up? Bill Self doesn't have these rumors flying around. John Calipari doesn't really have these rumors flying around. And I know that Kentucky and Kansas are both way better basketball schools than Baylor. That is apples and oranges comparing the dynasty that is, over the course of history in college basketball, Kentucky and Kansas both have had their dynasties. Louisville's been up there. They just aren't anymore. They just aren't. And for Baylor, having won a national championship under Coach Drew, he's got young kids in Waco. There's no point in uprooting his family who really likes it in Waco. And if they didn't really like it in Waco, they probably wouldn't have been here for 20 years. And overall, having been around him, I don't think there's a better representation of what Baylor is. I don't think there's a better character himself that represents Baylor in a better way than what Scott Drew does. And he loves the culture. He is a culture of joy. Jesus, others, yourself. Brother, you cannot go to Louisville. You cannot go to Louisville and your basketball team slogan be Jesus, others, yourself. There are 3 schools in the country where you can do that. Baylor's one of them. So what if Louisville, their athletic department, got an interview with Scott Drew? What if they got an interview with Scott Drew, right? That's him stooping to the level of Louisville. And then he goes, I wanted to be Jesus, others, yourself. We're going to play unselfish. We're not going to put an emphasis on NIL. The portal will only go there when we have to. We're all about culture. They're let's back up to the Jesus thing. And this isn't even me taking a stand on religion in sports or religion in college sports. It's just me saying you can't, it's a public school. And that's Scott Drew's built the perfect culture in Waco and won a national championship with it and been there 2 decades. We don't talk about Bill Self like this. We don't. Because the guy is coaching at Kansas. He has it made. Scott Drew just got a brand new arena, too. He's got it made. I think the kids thing is something we can't overlook as well. A lot of coaches stick around for the kids. A lot of the coaches that I've been around be like, yeah, I want to make my move in 3 years. Why? My kid graduates in 3 years. I want to make a move in 4 years. Why? Oh, my kid will be a 5th grade. If I get 5th grade, we can make that move smoother. Scott's not going anywhere. Stop. It's delusional. Give up. Go pick somebody else. Like, there's no way. There's no way. I will claw my left hamstring out with my bare hands and eat it raw, without screaming, no crying, on a live stream if Scott Drew goes to Louisville. And he won't. I think you know that. I think you do. It's just a little delusional. This has been It Always Will Be. See you on Monday. We're going to the Savannah Bananas and the Party Animals are going to the freaking Houston Astros Minute Maid Park. Yeah, we're playing a game there. It's sold out. 41,000 people watching on YouTube, on the Savannah Bananas YouTube channel. I'll be there, helping broadcast it. This has been It Always Will Be. Locked on. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.